And welcome back to the Book and Life podcast. You're here with the host, Crystal Fleming, and I'm excited today to share with you an author who I really appreciate. She has opened my eyes to a whole new world. She's an author that's defied every glass ceiling possible, and I cannot wait for you to meet her today. But before you get to meet this exciting romance author, I have to take the time to do our little adverts for the day. So here is the advert for Shadow, and it is part of the Time Guardian Book 4 series with Marianne Curley. The battle is over, the war is won, the prophecy complete, but life can't just pick up where it left off for Ethan. Struggling to cope with tragic loss, at odds with friends in the guard, he finds himself adrift, jumping at shadows and sensing someone who can't possibly be there. Blaming herself for the goddess Lathina's death, Giselle swears revenge, and Fullify the Immortals' plan for world domination, but Giselle hadn't planned on love, and that leaves her with an unbearable choice. Should she follow her heart or the strings of a goddess short on praise but high on expectation, who continues to pull her from the grave? As the Guard and the Order battle through the past and into a possible future, darkness lurks around every corner. The fight for the world's survival rests with just one. Is it friend or foe who stands in the shadow? I also want to remind you that The Price of Freedom by Rosemary Rao, from her, it's one of her Roman British crime series, can be found online, and most of the proceeds, if not all the proceeds, for the books that's sold and her agent's commission was all donated to the Ukraine crisis. So if you have an opportunity, please go ahead and check that out. But now I would really like to have the honor of introducing you to Heidi MccLaughlin. And let's welcome Heidi MccLaughlin. Oh my gosh, I totally butchered that,
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, thank you. I'm so bad with names. I should have asked you before we started this. That is actually, like, the fundamental thing you'll hear in the show is I'll forget to ask somebody how to pronounce their name, and then, like, 2 seconds in, I'll be like, oh shit, I butchered that, didn't I? Sorry! It's okay, because, like, everyone butchers mine, too, so.
It happens.
I get called, Christelle. Do you know the amount of times Americans call me Christelle, and I'm like, it's an A, not an E. Crystal.
But we spell it, so why they say that, though, is because of the I.
Right. I thought it was because they were putting an E at the end or something.
It's because of the I. So most people named Crystal spell it Crystal. So you add that K and you add the I, and it looks like Crystal. So take it as a compliment because that is a champagne or a wine or something. So it's good stuff.
Well, to be fair, I was the reason they named a strip club in Aberdeen.
That's awesome.
Like, I was a dancer than you. I humiliated this guy quite a few times, and he left our dance kind of scene and decided to own a strip club because he reckoned it was easier.
Definitely a lot more.
But he couldn't think of a name, and then he needed somebody to train a couple of his strippers, and they were like, oh, I know what I'll do, I'll call it Crystals, and it was my exact spelling.
Oh,
but thank God he has renamed the place, because, like, a lot of my friends were going in and started taking the piss out of him. They're like, oh, are you in love with Crystal? Because you named your club after her and stuff. And so, yeah, he changed it. I think it humiliated him into changing it, so, yeah. So, I am a fan of yours, and I'm sort of letting the podcast know this, because you are a wrestling fan, number one, which I found out before this podcast started. So, anyone who's a wrestling fan becomes, like, part of my dream set of authors forever. Also, it's kind of weird because, like, there's so few of us.
Yeah.
If for such a big American, thing, the fact that there's not more of us is kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, like, again, it's a niche company. It's,
Yeah, that's very
yeah.
true. I also think, like, it's like a dirty little secret, I think, to some people, because they're like, yeah, we like it, but we're not gonna, like, admit that we like it.
I mean, it's good
Which
entertainment, though. It's like, if you like reality TV,
you don't say it,
it's
though.
good. It's like nighttime soap operas.
Yeah, exactly. Like, have you seen The Ms. and Mrs. yet?
Nope.
I highly recommend it if you want to piss yourself
They're
laughing.
funny, but I don't watch a lot of TV sometimes, so
I know that.
I'm very selective.
Like, everything I watch is on the computer because we don't actually own a TV.
No, I'm just very
so
watch because I always sit there and think if I have time to watch TV, then I should be doing something else, like writing or plotting or something. So yeah, TV.
I'm the same. Yeah.
TV is it's a luxury, and I don't do it a whole lot. So
it was weird because, like, I went through that period of, I should be writing, and then my husband's like, I need time with you. Like, I need to spend time with you. So we started watching stuff in bed, and that's, like, his thing now. Like, I will try and save stuff up and watch it in bed with him, and then I try not to write while I'm in bed, so, like, it's his time with me. And it's weird, it seems to, like, balance out, and especially when he was driving the buses, we were getting very little time where we were being man and wife. It was, like, sort of ships in the night. So yeah, like, I made a point of, okay, it's 9 o'clock, things go away, we'll watch Sherlock, or we'll watch something for 2-3 hours.
Yeah, that's how it is here. Well, not so much during the summer, because there's no new shows, but we have a, like, family or whatever TV shows. So my husband and I watch a lot of stuff together, and we record them, and then, it's either, like, on a Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon, when we're not really super busy, and we'll watch. Some shows I have to watch live, though. Like, I get so invested in those characters, I have to watch them live. And while my daughter is away at school, we have what we call FBI Tuesdays. So there's 3 hours of the show FBI, and we have Law and Order Thursdays. So while she doesn't watch the new revised older Law and Order, we do watch SVU, and then we watch the new one, Organized Crime. But so she watches them on her computer, and then I watch them, and then in commercials we chat about what's going on and all that. So those are shows that I'll watch live because she's watching them at the same time. So she feels like she's at home watching TV with us, but she's even though at school. But then we record them all. So then my husband watches them later, or there'll be shows that we have a couple that we just watch together all the time that they were like his and our shows together. But he also shows that he watches with the girls, so he'll save those for when they come, and it's
crazy
schedule.
I mean, we were the same because we've got FBI's, we watch all the NCIS's except New Orleans because neither of us could get into that one. So yeah, we watch it, like, and then he watched the Hawaii one, and then he was like, no, I don't like Hawaii. Done. And I was like, okay, so, like, we'll watch NCIS LA and NCIS normal, and then we have so many.
Yeah.
And I feel like from, like, September through, like, June, we're just constantly, every day, kind of making sure we've watched everything. And then we find extra shows, like, we just found Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah.
So we just, like, binged Yellowstone, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
okay. And now we're on Elementary with Sherlock Holmes and Joan Watson, which is really good, by the way. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I actually think it's quite funny. But yeah, like, it's so weird. And then we found, the Winter Soldier, Vulcan and the Winter Soldier.
My husband
on Disney.
He watches a lot more shows than I do. But you mentioned Yellowstone. Watch 1883.
Yes, I did. I ended up watching it on myself because Ian watched the first two and he's like, nope, done. And I was like, I can't, like, just stop because this girl is like, okay, I don't care about any of the other ones.
Yeah.
That's like, and it was like, I was looking at it and I'm like, oh my god, that's Faith Evans and that's like,
not
Tom McGrath,
Faith Hill.
Faith Hill, sorry. Yes. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh my God, these are singers. Like, these are big country singers.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that was really good. And I'm with your husband on that. The first episode, I was like, I don't know, I'll give it another episode. And then by the end of the second episode, I was way into it. And then I was just like waiting. And we watched that one live because no
yeah.
commercials on the streaming channel. And I was just like every week, just sitting on the edge of my seat, going, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my
Yeah.
gosh!" Like,
God, you gotta see it, Yeah, I ended up like that myself, because we get Paramount through, oh my gosh, we get it through Amazon Prime, and I was like, oh, this is good, this is really fun, I really like this, and I just got hooked.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, I know what I'm doing, like, I really like this is fantastic. And then, I don't know why, but, like, Ian's a John Wayne fan, right? And I can hear people's eyes rolling at this particular moment, but his father, like, drilled into his head, John Wayne. So I think almost when he was watching 1883, he was, like, comparing it to John Wayne's stuff. And it wasn't, as far as he was concerned, up there with John Wayne.
Well,
so I think that's why he fell out with it.
You got to think John Wayne, you know, all that stuff was old, and I don't know, it was good. It was good.
It was good. It was good. It was a lot better than I thought, and I thought it was a bit more historically accurate as well. You know, because it made a lot more sense. However, I think that what people miss out on is that Nordic people would actually know how to swim, even though it was banned, because a lot of them had Viking communities. Yeah. So that there was that kind of water survival instinct thing. So yeah, I wouldn't have believed, that was the only part I didn't believe, because I think with the Nordic stuff that I've grown up with, like getting thrown in the ocean when I was a kid and stuff like that, you kind of learn this shit. Like, that was the only thing I was like, but the rest of it I loved. Yeah. I just loved the whole kind of...
You know, 1800s, they did things way differently than they did, you know, in the 1900s or whatever, because of what
exactly
experience and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I loved that show, and I was just, oh my gosh, I cried so hard on that last episode. I was just, oh my, in tears. No.
I know, so did I. I did. And I was just like, I hope they get her back to him. And then they didn't. And I was just like, how are they going to tell him?
I know.
Like,
where? We need that. We need, oh my gosh, we need
that. We need, like, but I heard that it's not done.
So I think what they've kind of hinted at is that they'll do like a 1 or 2 episode prologue of 1833 to lead into 1932, which are the boys now from 1883 as like adults.
Start in Yellowstone, yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't know, but we just need John going to the pasture with the flowers to tell Sam that she's not coming back, and
yeah, and I wonder, like I want to know more about him. Like, does he move his settlement out to Yellowstone, and that's why we have Indians out there? Is that maybe why?
Or if you go back to the episode prior to the last episode, where and if you're current on Yellowstone, if you go back to the second to last part of 1803, where John comes across the tribe. Throughout Yellowstone, you've seen other clips of John and the boys, and then they came back across this tribe later. When the grandfather died, they needed to bury him on the land, right?
That's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So now that they're building the airport on that land, they've uncovered his skull.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I tied it in, and I was like, but I also wonder if that may be connected to you know, her husband. Like, maybe he moved some of his there to keep them alive or whatever. Like, because he wants to be near her grave, or you know, like there was lots of that kind of elements in it. So I love the fact that we share so many shows in common. I loved the book Forever Girl. I highly recommend it to all the listeners. So tell us, what are you currently released that you want to share with us today? And what kind of led you to writing Forever Girl and, lead you on to the next one that you've done?
So I think my most recent release is actually called Forever Mason.
Yeah, I seen that
which
one,
is a prequel to Forever My Girl. So this is Forever Mason starts when the boys are 15 and 16 years old. It really goes into how Mason started dating Caitlin, how his relationship with Liam was when they were teenagers, what kind of relationship Liam had with his parents. And then, obviously it leads into the decision that Liam made, or one, it just kind of starts when Mason decides that he's not going to go to college with Liam and he's just going to stay local with Caitlin. And then, that just kind of tailspins into Liam's decision to leave. And then it's the 10 years, it's tearjerker. It's the 10 years that Liam is gone. So it's the birth of Noah, the birth of Mason's twins, his mom dying, and, them just doing the thing. Yeah. And they know that he's famous, and they know all the stuff that's going on. And it's Mason going to Los Angeles to try and find him and waiting day after day at the agent's office. And, the agent just obviously keeps Liam away because they don't want him to leave. So that's my most recent. It was something that I had said from the beginning I didn't want to write because it's complicated. And it's so heartbreaking to write about a character that's been dead from the beginning, right? And that's how Forever My Girl started. I had seen a photo on the internet of this guy, and he was just holding up like a laptop, and I said to my friend, I said, I see this and I see a very modern day Say Anything. That movie with John Cusack, just holding up the boombox. But now we don't have, or we have iTunes at the time, because this is back in 2010 or 2011. And,
yeah,
we don't have, and I said, so I just really see it. She's like, well, what's he doing? And I was like, oh, he's like, he's apologizing to his girl for whatever. And, he's been gone. And, she's like, well, why did he leave? Where did he go? And I was like, oh, he might become a rock star because why not, right? Rock stars.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
And most musicians, sometimes fall off the planet, whatever.
Yeah, they do.
She goes, so my friend says to me, she goes, well, why is he back? And I said, oh, his best friend died. So from the get-go, before I even put any words down for Forever My Girl, Mason was dead. And so the entire story, the first 3 books, are just built around Mason being gone and his wife moving on and his friend moving on, and them creating this whole new nuclear family and doing all those sorts of things. So then when I wrote Holding On to Forever, which is Peyton's story as an adult, and that's one of Mason's twins, and I have Mason in there and like the ghostly aspiration, his daughter's dying, so he's there. I really then got the urge to like, okay, let me start writing this. But it really took me, I want to say, 5 years to get the outline perfect, to actually have the courage to sit down and write that story. And it's a thick story. It's probably it's over 105,000 words. So it's a pretty fat little book.
Wow.
And it had to be right because I needed everyone to long for someone who doesn't exist in their world anymore and still fall in love with him and still, show that his wife loves him and like his kids adored him and all that stuff. So, but it was a difficult, it wasn't easy. Like there's a lot of crying, and I played with the first and the last chapter over and over again. I would switch their places and I would give it to someone to read, and then I'd switch it again and say, okay, well, how about this? So it actually starts with the funeral scene from Forever My Girl. It starts with that scene in the book and then flashes back to when Mason's 15 and meeting Kate for the first time.
Yeah.
And just being Liam's support for everything because his dad is just, overbearing and just not an overall great father. And then it ends with Mason obviously getting in the wreck, but you never see it. The wreck's not detailed. It's literally him touching the dial on the radio, saying verbally in his truck that it's time for Liam to come home, and then That's it. So that's the most recent release, and it was all, all started from my girl, and it gave readers a chance to know Mason and know him, and not in just in like a flashback form, which is where he's been this entire time.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. And it's hard to write flashback. Like that's another reason I admire you so much, is because flashback is so freaking hard to write.
They're not easy.
And it's like you honestly start wanting to like pull your hair out a little bit, because it is difficult. And then people like, oh my god, you flash back too, like I get that all the time, by the way. I flash back too much. So like I get that, and it's not an easy thing to balance, and when you do find the right balance to it, you just have to kind of cling on to it, and almost, so I understand like the going back and forth, and like, I mean, I killed off one of my main characters in my series, I will not say who, but like everybody, I have so many fakes and twists that nobody's actually guessed who it is yet, but for that first 5 books, I had to put in the flashbacks to almost build this kind of life, so it wasn't just like they just started in the books.
Yeah,
they actually had a life before the books, before any of this started. I think that's so important, so I admire the fact that you've done that, and it's a writing trait you don't see very often, and it's a writing technique that doesn't get used very often, and I think it's such a shame, because it's really important, I think, for the 3D character development. So yeah, I mean, I ring the bell of
thank you,
hallelujah for you. So yeah,
I mean, I like flashbacks because it's a better way to show what the character's intentions are than to telling the reader what the intentions were. Like,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Why something happens. It's better to read the catalyst for what made that decision, and the character like, oh well, I saw you do this, and so that was that. Like, okay.
So is there a book that you're excited about that's upcoming, or like, are you not able to tell us too much?
I'm still in my Beaumont series stuff, so I'm working on a new book for
I saw that,
Next Generation. Elle and Ben, they already have one book out, but obviously I've hinted at some stuff going on in the recent books with them, and I just pitched a book to some publishers, and that this one gets picked up because it's tearjerker. No lie, it's gonna make you cry, and I'm excited to write it. Kinda like, I'm not really. My synopsis makes me cry, so it's gonna be one of those.
Exactly, you need a good cry for an ugly cry, is what I say.
It's gonna be an ugly cry, but I'm excited about the concept. It's something I've worked on for quite some time, like well over 3 years, just to make it right. So just waiting to hear back on whether it's going to be accepted. So hopefully like this week. But yeah, so I can't tell the title of that one yet, because it's probably going to change. Like, they always change titles, but
I'm the same. Like, every time I think I have a title, somebody's like, no, yeah. And then like you feel obligated to change it.
Both of the title stays, but once you sign that contract, it's really
you're done. You give it to them, and that's it.
Really not up to you.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm super confident that the deal will be made, and I'll be pounding my little keyboard with fun stuff.
It's so funny you say that, because don't take this badly, but you inspired this series, and I cannot get it signed anywhere, which is so sad, but it's called Lord Caulfield's. So it's about these men who are really, really rough and really jaggy, but the women that they kind of encounter, they're just that little bit stronger, and it's like iron sharpens iron, and they just seem to work. They come together and they work. And I don't know what it was, but I was reading up on you a few years ago, before I ever started this, and it just popped in my head that, like, this series, just from everything that you had said in interviews and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, I've got a series. And I wrote, like, the first 3 chapters of the first book, and then I got demolished, and I haven't touched it since. But yeah, it's weird, because, like, when I meet authors and I talk to authors, even if I'm researching authors, they sometimes inspire these really great things inside me.
Well,
So if I ever get the Clawfords out, They will all be dedicated to you because they were inspired completely by you.
Oh, that's super flattering.
And I actually wrote the entire breakdown for every single one of the books, and I actually did it in hospital.
Oh, jeez.
I was stuck in the hospital for a month, and I had to, I wanted to buy your book, but I couldn't because I was in the hospital, and Ian's like, you better not have parcel sent to that. But I bought the book anyway. And he wouldn't bring it in to me to read. And I was kind of going crazy, so I was reading up all these other stuff, because you can go on the fandom sites, and it shows you, the books that are coming out, and the books that you've done. You can see snips of, all these other books. So I was just, flicking through, and then I was like... And then I was watching Devilish Maids when they were doing, the infusions and stuff, because you can't write if you've got, tubes in your arm. And I was watching Devilish Maids, and I was just it was just everything you'd done, and then Devilish Maids combined created this series, and I was just like, oh, wow. So, yeah.
It's nice that your brain is always, working to be creative and in that situation, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I can't think of anything. I need to write something, but I don't know what to do. So the fact that your mind is constantly going and looking for inspiration, you just have to write. I mean, that's the thing is, everyone's like, what's the one piece of writing advice you can give someone? And I'm like, write stuff down, everything.
Constantly, yeah.
Constantly. And use the notes app on your phone, or write yourself an email or something. Most of us have smartphones. So all those apps,
we all have smartphones,
are to us. And you have to utilize them. So if something, even if you just voice it to yourself, leave yourself a voice memo. Be like, oh, this is what I saw today. We do people watching. I'll sit, on a bench, waiting for my kids to do something, and they'll be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going to sit out here and I'm going to watch some people, because, watch their mannerisms. You watch how, a guy reaches for a girl's hand, and all that kind of stuff is stuff that you can put down in your books and in your thoughts and stuff. And,
and it's individual too. It's like a fingerprint almost, because it's completely your own. And just to give you an idea.
Nice.
I thought I'd show you it, because it's actually exists. And the worst thing was, I don't know what it was you said in an interview, but you made me create the LA spin-off series.
Nice.
So yeah, I write more when I'm in the hospital than I do at home, which is a really bad thing.
Without anybody bugging.
But, well, it's not that, in the hospital, because usually I'm in a ward that knows me, and I have bad PTSD. I have bad medical PTSD. So they know, sometimes Crystal just needs to shut down and not be there. Because, I always get the worst roommates. They need emotional support. And then I, get worn out because I'm constantly kind of keeping them calm and keeping them positive and keeping them going. And then Crystal needs, time to heal herself.
Yeah.
So I go and I wait till they fall asleep, and then I write. And then the nurses will come in and they'll be like, Crystal, you've got friggin' tubes everywhere. Why are you writing? And I'm like, because it's my way. It's my way of staying sane in this crazy world. Because, I remember last summer was the worst summer of my life. I had a chest drain in, a breathing tube in. I had just tubes everywhere. And it was hot here. We had the extreme heat last year, so it was 40 with no AC, no wind. There was no breeze coming in the windows. We had these 2 fans, which was not doing anything at all. And I was just writing constantly in my notebook, because it was one of the things I could do that just got rid of the moments when I couldn't type.
Yeah.
When I could type, I was actually editing a young adult novel, but I just kept moving forward, because I knew if I stopped and I thought about what was happening to me and what was going on, I would just fall apart.
Well,
so I just kept going, and then when I was convalescing, I got told you should start this podcast, and funnily enough, that's, I thought, oh, I'm doing a university course, and my husband's away a lot. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll start a podcast. I didn't have enough on my plate.
Sometimes, though, having too much on your plate is a good thing, because it keeps your head...
Yeah. Keeps you busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm somebody that does believe in like distraction methods because it,
Yeah.
it helps. It really honestly helps because there's like, I know for me, there's like so much time where I just start freaking out and go, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. So, yeah, I just, I like to kind of cling on a little bit and just,
Yeah.
So, give us a little bit, like, because I know we talked about this before, but tell us what it was like when you heard that Forever Girl was going to be a movie and you were going down this crazy ass journey. What was that like for you?
So just a little backstory. I wrote and published Forever My Girl in 2012, at the very end of the year. So really didn't have any expectations whatsoever. I had previously written a young adult story because that was really where my heart was in young adult, paranormal fantasy, that kind of stuff. Did the whole agent thing, was rejected, whatever. Then saw the photo online, wrote Forever My Girl in 26 days. Not a very big book, like about 67 or 68,000 words, but wrote it in the 26 days, which those days are important, and I'll tell you why. So I had a mentor, a mentor in Jillian Dodd, who's an author. She's the first author to read it. She was on this massive self-published train. Like, she was just doing super well, and I had reviewed a couple of her books, so I had sent it to her. We had formed this awesome relationship, and I sent it to her, and I was like, I don't know I want to know what you think. Like, does it have any, legs or whatever? And she loved it. She's actually the one who came up with the title, because I had it as a different title, and she came up with the title Forever My Girl. So we left it and went with that. But she was such a champion for this book from the get-go. And then I published it. She held my hand through the entire publishing process and published it. And the first 4 days, it was just like, it was doing really well. It was like when Movers and Shakers was super popular on Amazon, and she would send me these, little screen caps of, it's this, and people were like buying my book, and it was crazy. And I had no idea why or how. I mean, I had done a blog tour, and I think only 10 bloggers at the time was like, like that was like the max that blog tour company were doing. Like, I've got 10 bloggers. And so I was like happy with 10 bloggers doing it, whatever. Because back then, ARCs were like so coveted that
they were.
You were like begging and begging to be on someone's tour. And so I released at the end of the year. So my birthday is December 27th. That's when I released and gave myself a birthday present. And then by like New Year's, about the 29th, like the number, the hype just kind of went down a little bit, which is fine. It's like you did its week thing or whatever. And then on New Year's Eve, I was just chatting about it in a group. That's back when groups were super cool on Facebook and super like, informative, and you can actually, like, people were engaging and just doing all this stuff. And like the sales just like were going up and going up and going up, and I was just like, this is cool. Like, people are buying my book, yay! Like, it's good New Year's Eve, whatever. And then by January 2nd, my husband had called me at work. So I worked, and like most beginning authors, you work full-time job. That Forever My Girl, called my little book, had broke the top 100 on Amazon.
Wow.
So, but not only had it broke the top 100 on Amazon, but it broke the top 5 on Barnes & Noble, which was really unheard of because Barnes was anti-self-publish at the time.
Yeah, it is.
Seeing that trickle. Like, and then a lot of those agents who had rejected my initial story were knocking on the email saying, hey, we want to represent you. Because again, that was the craze at the time. All the big New York agents were coming after these indie published authors that were doing really well and gobbling them up. So that's when I was with my friend, my local friend, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And then in that time, one of the big 5 publishers came to me and said, we want to publish these books. Like, we want to buy you, do a 3-book contract. So then my friend gave me her agent's name. We started talking and all that. and I subsequently decided not to go with that publishing company, which it's either here nor there. I don't know if it would have been a good thing or a bad thing, but I didn't go with them. And then within weeks of that, so come March, was the first time the production company, LD Entertainment, reached out to me and said that they want to know if my book rights are available. However, they sent the email to Jillian Dodd because she had let me use one of her ISBNs, so everything was kind of tied to her. So they sent it to her, and I asked her, what does that even mean? And she's like, I have no idea. She's like, you have to email them back. So I emailed it to my agent, and she's like, yeah, we handle this in our LA department. So that's when I met up with my agent in LA, and she started negotiating a contract. So by May, the end of May of 2013, so mind you, this book has been out for 6 months now, we signed that was crazy, like within 6 months. And I was just like, my mind was a whirlwind of just what is going
the hell.
Like, how is this my reality? Like, when my husband asked me when I was writing this book what my expectations were, this was not it.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't even on my radar, like at all. At the time, I wanted to make some money to make sure my daughter had enough money to play on her travel basketball team, so that she had a chance to get a scholarship to college to play basketball. That was it. So goal went way beyond what I expected, and then this was just like mind blown. And then with that comes the it's never going to become a movie. Hollywood does this all the time. They shop right. They do this. They lock stuff up so other people can't do anything with it. And I was just like, well, hey, you know what?
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot. Yeah.
They've paid me, so I'm happy. Like, whatever. And
as long as you get paid, yeah.
And then
you can forget about it till you have to, do something. Yeah.
To pay and continue to pay. And so on average, they say on average it takes about 5 years to get a movie made from contract to finished. And that's what it was. So we signed a contract in 2013 and the movie came out in 2018. Like, literally 4 years. And but yeah, it's just like I said, it's mind-blowing knowing that somebody wants to make a movie off your book. But to actually get on set and to meet the actors, meet the director, to watch production, to watch the filming, to just be like, holy crap. Like, to sit in your very own director's chair. Like, it is the most surreal. Like, I was so nervous. I probably shook for like the first 4 hours I was on set. Because people
Did nobody bring you a coffee and just be like, hey, it's cool to see you here?
Me everything I wanted, and like, all of it. They were just super gracious. But it was just like, holy, like,
it's hell of an experience. The
guy that was like making sure the cords were straight for the track for the cameraman, to like the extras that were there, and they just all kept thanking me for writing this book, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, really? Like, they were so great, so humbled that, and it's because they were given work. Like, they got to work.
Yeah, of course,
really good. And so it was just, we just did a panel in Texas for Book Bonanza, and that was one of the questions, like, how does it feel? And because we've all had something different, except for E.L. James, like, she's had theatrical releases. Anna Todd was on there, and hers, is on Netflix. And then B.B. Easton was on the panel as well, and hers went to Netflix and stuff. And then same with Julie Murphy, who did Dumpling. Like, she's, they're all on Netflix. Me and E.L. James are the ones that have had theatrical releases. And so they were just like, how does that feel? And it's just this weirdest thing. You cannot describe how it feels.
No, you can't.
It's there's simply not a word that captures watching your characters come to life. And as weird as it is to watch it through someone else's eyes, because you had a screenwriter.
Yeah, of course.
still the character that you created. And
yeah.
Like I said, I was nervous for like the first, I was like shaking the whole time, and it was hot. We did it in Atlanta in August. But remember I said it took me 26 days to write the book?
Yeah.
It took 26 days to film the movie.
Wow, okay. That is actually quite cool.
It is cool. So, but yeah, that's the start to finish process. Like it's a 5-year, it was 5 years. They said it was going to be, my agent's like, yeah, usually, they hold them for like 5 years, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. And I remember getting the call from my agent. So she never really called. They always email. And she called me one day and she goes, I'm FedExing you this contract. Like you need to sign it and send it back immediately, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And I was like, why? What's going on? She goes, we're going to production. And I was just like,
what?
I was at work.
Yeah.
I went to a coworker's office just in tears, and she's like, oh my God, who died? Like, who died? And I'm like, nobody's ever going to make that. And she's like, they're going to do what?
What?
Yep. And she was like, because they were that was it. They were moving to production. Like, things were changing. Things were moving, things were going, and they were going to production, and they were starting to cast and starting to do all this, and I was just like, holy wow. So.
It totally changes your life. Like, I used to think the biggest moment of mine was when I wrote a wrestling storyline, and I was sitting and I thought, oh my God, they're not gonna like this, they're not gonna like this, they're not gonna like this, and then the guy that I was writing under turned around and he said, holy crap, this is the best wrestling storyline I've ever read.
Yeah.
Now, it was not performed by the wrestlers, it didn't go out, it was never used, but here this guy was that, who'd worked in the biggest company, he'd worked in every wrestling company that's ever existed. And, he's saying, you've got something, you really understand this. That is like the closest I'll ever feel to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it is, it's like, it's like a thing. And I've sat with wrestlers who, I'm sorry, to me, wrestlers are bigger stars than movie stars. That's just how my brain works. And my best friend thought, oh my God, she's going to go in and meet, meet Rhino and meet Billy Gunn, and who didn't actually end up showing up to the show because he got stuck in the airport and deported, which was kind of funny because that was a Billy Gunn trick. So his partner was trapped in the hotel. He was supposed to be in a tag team, but Billy got stopped at the airport. He got sent back to America because he had the wrong visa.
Oh, geez.
So, the stupid things. But I met Kid Cash, and I sat with these American wrestlers, and you'd have thought that this was just, an everyday thing for me. It was like I walked in, and it just clicked in my head, and I was like, oh, I can do this. I feel like home. To the point where one of the wrestlers said, if you were not dating someone, I would marry you, take you home. Well, I would put you in my car, drive you to the airport, take you back to my house, marry you, knock you up, chain you to the kitchen sink so you could never leave, because I would not even trust you to go to the grocery store without another southern guy trying to steal you.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm like, my friend's like, that's a compliment, Crystal. And I'm thinking in my head, that sounds like domestic abuse.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what I mean? So, and then after that, like, it was almost like the wrestlers were trying to get me to go with somebody that was in wrestling, because they were like, they wanted me to always be in wrestling because I had that in mind, like, I always say it's always the great girls behind the wrestlers that make the great wrestlers great. And, I know that, for instance, Dwayne's wife was the reason he was so good, and he had the success that he had. And, there's other females out there that's made the wrestlers who they are, because, no offense, we have a good impact on people. I just wish there was more of us girls in the writer's room making a difference.
Yeah.
Because even though we're female, we can write some really fucking great stuff.
Yeah, here in our panel in Texas a couple weeks ago, B. Beeson mentioned being in the writer's room, as did Anna Todd, and they both have different experiences. B. Beeson decided that she would rather just be home writing instead of being in that writer's room, whereas Anna Todd has taken on the more executive producer roles with her movies, and now has a passion for turning books into movies through this experience. So it's fun to see like the two different sides of what they've both been able to experience, and for them to both realize that their passions are where they want them to be. Like, you know, Anna Todd's writing these amazing stories, but she wants to produce films, where BB Easton's given an opportunity to write on her TV show, and she's like, nah, I'm just going to write some books. And
well, for me, like, I've done the writing at home thing. I've been at a wrestling show, and I've written a wrestling show that never happened because, you know, they changed their minds at the last second, which happens. So I've had those experiences, and for me, like, I think because a writer's room is such a different world, I would more want to do it because I'm like one of these people that believes in breaking down the walls and break down the barriers a bit. And with me being such a, like, I am a disabled author, I have a learning disability of dyslexia, so, like, I feel like I would be breaking down some walls for disabled people. So I would want to do the writer's room not really for myself, but so that I'm opening the door so that others can come in behind me and have the opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise get if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing the writer room.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the same kind of thing I say. Like, if I got a chance to be in a wrestling writer's room, I would take it because I would be pushing that glass ceiling almost to breaking point, or if not breaking it, because I would be the first Scottish, Nordic, disabled, learning disabled writer to be in a wrestling writer's room, whether it's for All Elite Wrestling or whether it's for WWE. You know, and that's a huge difference. And whatever company gets me, I guarantee you that the storylines would be far better with me there than what they've currently got. And if it comes down to a company war, I'm just a plane ticket away. I'm just sticking that out there because you never know. Like, somebody from wrestling might listen to this and be like, oh yeah, we need something to, like, change this whole battle between WWE and All Elite Wrestling. And then, you know, they remember me and they're like, yeah, we'll send you a plane ticket and 401k. I can live with that.
Right.
You know? So, yeah, I love doing that. And I love the fact that you and me have some areas of similarity. And, you know, we've had the craziness of our lives suddenly changing overnight. And, I mean, I never thought that I'd sit down and write with Joey Legend. You know, like, that to me was... I did 90% of the writing. He'll tell you I did 90% of the writing. But I got up at, like, 6 a.m. to do the calls with him, talking him through the storyline, seeing what he could add to it. And it was the same when I wrote my screenplays. I literally went to the wrestlers, cap in hand, and sort of said, I need you to read this and tell me what's missing. Like, what can I do to make these scenes harder hitting? And it is humbling. They will humble you.
Oh,
It's worth it, you know? And I think everybody, like, you learn. I mean, they literally live 3D characters the entire time. You know, there's nobody better to learn from sometimes. Right. Particularly Raven, who decided to show me a plot hole in my novel that was the size of a semi-truck.
Nice.
Yep, he's like, I hate romance novels, but by the way, here's the biggest plot hole you've got, and I can't believe nobody sees it. And I was like, I hate you sometimes, but I love you sometimes too. Sometimes you do feel like just strangling them. Just a little.
Yeah. Just like all everybody else.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a teeny tiny bit. So, okay, on to books, because this is like the best topic. I always think it's a good way to start the show, because if you're, you know, talking books, you know, that's our thing. That's our jig. It's also our addiction, I think. We're not addicted to the illegal stuff. No. We're addicted to the stuff that could, you know, take down an entire house. So what is the book that you've read recently that you would say has stuck with you the most? That you just, oh, wow. You don't have one, do you?
Nope, full disclosure. I just don't know, I don't read as much as I used to.
Yeah. I find that hard too, actually.
Yeah. I don't know, it's weird. The last favorite book I read, though, was The Comic-Con by Dee Lagasse.
Okay.
Not, it's weird because I'm not a superhero, Marvel.
Fan.
Yeah, it's not me. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy the Batman movie. I haven't seen any of the Spider-Man movies. I think I've seen 2 of like the Iron Man-y movies. Like, it's not my thing.
I can hear so many people screaming, "Oh my God, we've got to send her DVDs of this
No,
now."
please, I will never watch them. Please don't do it. Like, and I do like Chris Evans, and she does too. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But she posted her book, her cover, and her cover was adorable. And I had emailed her and I said, I just out of curiosity, how are you getting away with using this name, this title? Because let's be honest,
Yeah.
right? So she said she emailed them and asked for permission. So she got permission to use it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I want to read it. So she sent me a copy, and it was so funny
Mm-hmm.
and so cute and so sweet, and just like had all these laugh out loud moments. And it was just, I don't know, it was probably the cutest story I've read in a long time. And it's a little romantic comedy and got, a little hint of drama in there and, fun stuff. But it's really about this young screenwriter
Mm-hmm.
who, and, her comics turned into a movie, and her heartthrob is playing the lead character, right?
Oh no. I can see where this is going.
And so I read this thing in probably like 3 days and was just, completely thrilled to read it and stuff. But I get up early and I work most of the time, or I've got, things, and I've got 2 kids. They're older, but still 2 kids.
Yeah.
Or, and I just, when I go to bed, it's like, I'm out. Like, so
Yeah.
maybe get a chapter in, maybe I don't. But lately, if someone says, hey, can you read my book for a blurb, then I'm trying to do that, mostly to help out, newer authors and stuff like that. But yeah, it's, I'll go pick up books at the bookstore. Like, I did buy a couple books the other day. I watched The Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix, and so I bought.
I am on the fence about that. So you need to.
Excellent.
Should I? Like,
yes.
Is it worth it?
Worth it.
Okay, yeah. I will put it on my list now.
Michael Connelly's books, so that I could read them to see, not to see the difference, but to, there's a 6-book series. I mostly read them because the first book was a movie with Matthew McConaughey, which I didn't know until the other day.
Yeah.
And then Netflix or whoever is in production has taken the second book and turned it into a series, which is where I'm at with my series, my book stuff, because while I have the first movie and, that's kind of off limits, I would really like to turn this into a series for Netflix, Hulu, whatever.
Of course, yeah.
And so I'm like totally intrigued on how this is done. So I want to read the books and, do like my little, see the movie, compare the notes and that kind of thing. So it's more like business now. But
yeah, it does feel like that, yeah.
But they've done exactly what I want to do. So now it's like a project for me. So I'm going to read those probably pretty soon. And what else did I read an older Kristen Hanna book this year, because I'm just kind of waiting for the second part of Firefly Lane to come out.
Right.
And I wish that was like coming out soon, but yeah. So the reading thing is just hasn't been my thing for a while. It's more my thing now that we just moved to the beach. So really nice days in the morning. We get up and go to the beach from like 9 to noon and just kind of sit there and chill and relax. But like the other day I went to the beach and wrote. So again, it's my thing. If I have time to read, then I have time to write.
Yeah, it's kind of that tear. I feel the same way. Like, I mean, I'm actually writing and reading kind of like the same, because like if you're writing for Mills and Boon, then you have to write a certain way. So I'm having to read Mills and Boon so that I can keep the style of how it's written in my head, so that when I'm writing it matches kind of what they try and put out. And it's difficult because I almost have that argument in my head too, where I'm like, if I've got time to read, I really should be writing, and I'm still trying to. Yeah, like I'm still up till 2:00 in the morning, just making sure I'm reading as much as I can, so that I have that voice balance in my head.
And everything I like to read, I prefer to read in third person because the book that I'm about to write for publishing will be in third person. But the books for my Beaumont series are in first person, and it's just like, it's that mind thing. So the books that I am picking up are all in third person, except for the Michael Conley books in first person. So they're kind of like, that's
I like that. You're a bit like me in that regard. You have to have that voice setting to write. Like, gosh, I thought I was the only one because I was like, I'd never heard another author say that, and I'm like, it must be just me, like, doing a mimic thing, but hearing that you do it as well it's made me feel a little bit better about myself, to be honest.
I picked up a book from the same publisher that I feel like this author has some really great descriptions, and even though it's a completely different genre, like, it's not even in my genre. But I listen to a lot of books. I will say I listen to a lot of books. I'm driving.
I'm getting into that now.
Doing stuff like that. I listen to a lot of books, but the books I listen to are suspense, murder-ish. I won't read them, but I listen to them. Yeah. So I have devoured everything by Melinda Lee and Kendra Elliott. Like, I have gone through their entire backlist just listening to their books.
I have a couple of names for you later on that you have to check out if you like listening to it.
Okay.
That are must-haves.
But so I picked up a book because it comes from one of our same publishers, and so I've turned it into a guide. Like,
oh, okay.
Gone through and flagged, and and this author writes in third person, so I've gone through and flagged their descriptions and their verb usage and all that, so that it's less work for me in the end.
It is. It's a little bit like cheating, but yeah, I get where you're going with it, because I wish I'd had that when I was writing Marie's World, because I was writing almost in third person, but I also had to write the diary entries, which were in first person, and just, oh my gosh, she trying to, like, balance the two and not be repetitive and to have the right verbiage. It just made my head feel like it was going to explode. So for $5, I just felt like, but I'm glad I'm not writing any more of them at the moment. I know I have to go back and do it at some point. I'm just like, can it wait? Like, I need to make money first, and then I can go back and finish the series.
Yeah, that happens. Sometimes you have to do what your bread and butter is, so that you can up later. Yeah.
So if you had time to just sit and read and just enjoy, like, you have no reason to write, you can just sit and you can read anybody. You have to pick an author to read, a series to read, and a book, like an author to listen to on Audible. So you got 3. Okay. So you have to pick 3 different ones.
So if this is prior to writing, I love Nelson DeMille.
Okay.
And he writes a lot of standalones, but he writes one series with the same character over and over, John Corey. So he's got, like, I want to say 3 or 4 books out with him. I love that series. John Corey is a ex-police. I think he went to FBI, sort of thing. Yeah. And his books Nelson DeMille's books are pretty much real life. So they kind of base off things that are going on. So, he has the TWA flight that mysteriously blew up after leaving New York City at one time, and then talks about, like, one of his books ends with 9/11 and those things. So he kind of brings in the real life stuff with the fictional stuff, which is nice. And then I have a deep, deep love for John Grisham's character, Jake Brigance, who was A Time to Kill, which Matthew McConaughey played. Those audiobooks, so there's 3 Jake Brigance books now, and those audios are spot on to Matthew McConaughey's voice. So I like a little accent. I like a little accent. So anytime I listen to those books, it's just like, it sounds like Matthew McConaughey reading to me, like, and I just can't pass that up, right? But in the audiobooks that I listen to, the 2 authors are, until I'm done with their entire backstory, their backlist, until I'm done, it's Melinda Lee and Kendra Elliott, and they're romance suspense. They also co-write together, and they're just like, they pump out these books like crazy, and they all take place either on the East Coast or West Coast. I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Oregon, and the series I currently listen to takes place in Oregon. but then the other writer writes for the East Coast, and so a lot of art takes place where my old house is, and so it's kind of like gives me a mix of being at home both sides. And we
Yeah.
talk about stuff where I grew up and all that. So yeah, so definitely have an Audible subscription, and I definitely go to Nelson DeMille's book. The first one that I picked up on this. I've read most of his books, but John Corey is my favorite character with him, and then with um, with John Grisham, it's Jake Brigance. I tend to stay away from romance though, because I don't want something to influence my writing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Like, I'm listening to historical, romance just to keep the romance going for me.
Yeah,
But it's like by Tessa Dare. So it says nothing to what I'm writing right now because I'm writing two contemporaries. So yeah, I have to kind of like almost jump genres if I'm writing. Like,
yeah,
except for when I'm writing YA, because then I have to have like the fantasy stuff, but it has to be a completely separate type of fantasy to what I'm writing in order for me to be able to do that and enjoy it. So I get where you kind of go with that kind of feeling. Okay, is there an author, past and present, who's A, influenced you to read, B, inspired you to write, and C, who's gotten you excited about books?
So I'll go say definitely the inspiration for reading with Judy Blume,
Yep.
because not only does she get you when you're preteen, she gets you when you're a teen, and she gets you when you're an adult. She's got all three covered.
She's got you from the beginning to the end.
Yep. Let's see, who inspired me, or let's see, who I'm most excited. I don't know. I used to be super excited for Charlene Harris with her Suki Stackhouse books.
Yeah.
Like, I waited for those. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like 3. I was a midnight release, and I'm like in line at the
Yeah.
book, then just like devouring those. And same with like Cassandra Clare with the
Yep.
first she was working on. Like those, I just gobbled those up.
Did you try Shirley Kennan?
I think I tried one of hers, and I don't remember why it just never flew. I don't know. I mean, let's be honest, Suki Stackhouse is because of Eric. Like, and then there's Alfie. Like, come on now. But
No, because I'm just like curious because when you mentioned her, I was like, oh, I wonder if she likes Christine Freeham or if she liked Shirley Kennan, because they always like after the whole True Blood thing kind of died down.
yeah,
They were
but
the two that kept going, and I just admire that.
they were the more of the adult side of that life,
Yeah.
and I'm really interested to the YA focus of,
Yeah.
just about the YA part that's kind of innocent, except for obviously Charlene. She also had the story about the vampire in the shoes or something like that. I don't remember. So I used to be super excited for them. Now I'm just super excited for my peers when they have a release because,
Yeah, of course.
that kind of stuff. Or now, the excitement part comes from when, people get TV deals or movie deals and all that stuff. And so I have a friend who has a TV deal. She hasn't announced it yet, and I'm really waiting for her to be able to announce it. So
I bet you're like buggered her too. Like, can you do it soon? Can you do it soon? Can you do it soon?
We were just talking about it the other day. But she can't announce it yet, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited. I can't wait to share this news. So that's really these days is what my peers are doing, and that kind of thing. Or when a new show comes out, like a new season of Virgin River, super excited. Finished that last night.
I haven't done it yet. I because like I'm scared it's not going to live up to the rest of it. But then I'm also...
Full disclosure, I never read the book, so I don't know where it should go.
I haven't read the books either. Like, yeah. I'm such a bad... Like, I watched Anatomy of Scandal. Highly recommend, by the way. That was, like, my set on the fence one. I really wasn't sure. And then everyone talked me into that, and I'm like, okay, it's really good. But, like, I don't know. Like, after the whole disaster of Outlander... I've just been sort of a bit more nervous about going back to things in case it just isn't the same. Because, like, the end of Outlander Season 1 was just too much for me. And then they kind of carry it on all the way through Season 2. And so I haven't been able to watch Season 2. And I'm like, and I read the book the second book, so I could watch season 3. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely haven't read the Robin Carr books for this series. She's got a lot. I did look into it, but there's like
Yeah.
a million of them, so I was like, I'm just gonna watch.
I know, I saw it too. Like, I started picking them up, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have enough space for this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna watch the TV show. So I do like that. Like I said, I'm waiting for Firefly Lane to come back because it just cut off half the movie. I was like, where's the rest of the show?
Did you see Fated? Fated?
Is that the Lauren?
That was the one with the, they're all like pixies and fairies. They're at school together, and this girl didn't know she was a fairy, and she ends up having to go to the school because she's got all these powers, and then it doesn't quite. Yeah, it's weird. It's a really weird one, but it's a good fantasy one.
Where is that on? What?
Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Fated, yeah. Did you also see Carnival Roll?
So I started that, and the steampunk thing's just really not my thing. So I
know I struggled with that too. But the sex was good. The sex scenes were good. Like that's what saved it for me. Like I was just like, oh come on, just get it on. Like I've gone through an hour. Please just have sex so I can have something good to look at.
No, I think I'm first.
What about Bridgerton? Are you a Bridgerton? You're not? Do tell.
The hype. Yeah, I think if it
that makes sense.
Hyped, I would probably, like, my niece loves it. She absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
But it's just so hyped all the time that I'm afraid it's just going to let me down. I'm not a big historical person to begin with. And I'm just so afraid that I'm going to watch this and be like, because I've tried to watch The Gilded Age.
I did watch that. And I was a bit let down with it.
They film that here and in the mansions where I live.
Yeah.
And I can't.
I was a little let down, but I think it's because I was there with the whole Downton thing. I lived Downton because it was such a big thing in Scotland that I was just sucked into it. So I almost expected that same kind of experience, and when it wasn't like Downton, I was almost like really sad.
Yeah. And I haven't watched Downton Abbey yet either. I've talked to myself about starting it.
Right.
Mostly, I was never really interested in, although I love Meg Smith, but I was never really interested until I saw the previews for the movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, can I just see the movie and not watch the show? And everyone's like, no, you really should watch the show. And I was like, oh, great. Well, since I've never seen the movie, I've got to catch up on like 7 seasons of a show. But yeah, so.
No, I get that. And I think it is difficult to kind of get that balance of whether a show is going to be really, really good or whether it's going to just be kind of like a letdown. So I'm kind of with you on that. What genre are you mostly drawn to when you visit bookshops or online bookstores?
Women's fiction.
Oh, I'm the same.
Like Barnes & Noble, I head right to the women's fiction section. Those are the only physical books I'll read, is women's fiction for young adults. The rest I'll do on audio.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah, so, and I just like the covers a lot in women's fiction. And, I don't know, just more drawn to, and mostly it's always in third person. So.
Do you not think that it feels kind of like more of what we're facing now that we're older? Like, it's more of what we're dealing with on an everyday kind of, it's more like an everyday sort of thing where the drama kind of just makes sense to us because we're more grown up and we're experiencing more different things.
It's more of an everyday drama. Like,
right.
It's more lifelike, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's so high, always on romance. Like, there's real world or real issues going on in these characters' lives, and it's not, just, trying to find your baby daddy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, because that's what I write, like the second chance romance and the secret babies and, secret pregnancy, stuff like that I tend to steer super clear away from the romance element of literature.
Yeah.
And focus on the fiction side, and yeah, so.
No, I get that. I feel like, I think now that I'm older, I'm kind of going to that sort of stage where I'm like, I want something a bit more realistic, I think, is the kind of
Yeah.
way that I put it in my mind. So, yeah, I love this question so much, but I always, yeah. Has there ever been a book that you've picked up and you wished you just hadn't, like, you had that moment of, what did I just read, or what did I just start?
Yeah. So, without saying the name, I guess I'll say the name because I've been pretty vocal about it. So, I'm very on the fence about Where the Crawdads Sing. From like a reader standpoint, it just seems so unrealistic that this girl was raising herself from the time she was like 7 years old out in the middle of nowhere in isolation, learning to fish and run a boat, and just like that just seems like how did that
Yeah, yeah.
happen? And from like a writer standpoint, I felt it was like super repetitive and just the same stuff over and over and over again, and that was bothersome. But as a reader, Delia Owen's descriptions were beautiful and so detailed and just really put you in the setting. But it was just like I just went back and forth, back and forth. Like, do I like this book? Do I not like this book? Do I like it? Do I not? And I can't come to a conclusion on whether it's a 5-star read for me or a 1-star read. Like, I'm just literally like rounding down the middle, like, because it is good, but then it isn't good, and then it is good, but then it isn't good. And as soon as my daughters are in Belize right now, and when they come back, we're going to go see the movies. But that's just the one book that I'm like, if I had never read it, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, but I did read it, and now I just like have all these questions. Really? Like, where were the authorities? Where were the people? Like, how did this happen? Like, where did the dad go? Like, yeah.
Oh, no, I totally get that. There's, like, some books I just think, that just doesn't make sense. I have to put that out of my mind. So moving into the writing portion of the podcast, how did you go about kind of creating the obstacles that you have in your storylines? Like, where did you get that inspiration from to get yourself in that mindset?
So most of it's just anything that I pick up, like reading an article or,
Yeah.
Real life sort of situations. With, for example, with Forever My Girl, it's the death of his best friend and the life that he's created for himself and how he's super just shut off from everybody except for his little rock star group.
Yeah.
He's got to go home and he's got to, really not to be punny, but face the music, right?
Yeah.
And then carrying through that series, it's all about second chances and just, there's always, the obstacle of like in holding on to Forever where life repeats itself. Now the daughter's in a car accident. She's on life support. Like, she's touch and go and,
Yeah.
like the first and all that kind of stuff. So, but most of it just comes from the environment, like what's going on, articles that I've read, articles that I've posted on, like, in the news section on Facebook. I always check that to see, what post somebody may have posted on Reddit, like them on the asshole, like what kind of situation are you people going through? So it's the real life situations like that come through and say, okay, well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this situation and I'm going to take this situation. Like the story that I just pitched is about a bucket list. Like,
Yeah.
Have them, but you do ever use them?
Yeah.
Like, do you actually ever write a list down and say, this is what I want to accomplish by whenever? Like, my number one thing on my bucket list was to meet John Travolta. Done, check mark, done, don't ever have to do it again. And so now sometimes my number one spot, but it's been a couple of years now and nothing's moved in. It's like, like,
Yeah.
In town we had this folk festival that just happened. I wouldn't have gone unless I had known who was going to be there. Everybody, when we just moved to town, so it's like I missed off the ticket. But then Saturday night, Paul Simon decides to show up. Just decides to show up and play, and now while I would never go pay to go see him in concert, I would have liked to have seen him at the festival, right? And then last night, um, or he knew that so I used to live in Vermont, and I used to go to this pub where this pub was the backdrop for the musical Hadestown,
Yeah.
and the director of Hadestown was performing Saturday, and so or the writer of Hadestown, Anise Mitchell, she was performing on Saturday. I would have loved to go listen to her perform because maybe she would have performed the songs from Hadestown because she actually wrote them, right? So it's kind of one of those things. And then last night we find out that Brandy Carlisle, we knew she was going to perform, and Mary Morris was performing. I was like, oh, dang, like really would have just liked to have gone and just filled at the
Yeah.
festival.
No, I get it. I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
You know, Brandy Carlisle performs, and not only does she perform, but she brings out Winona Judd,
Yeah.
and then she brings out Joni Mitchell. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, why did I not have a ticket to this show? So, yeah, but in that case, it's like I would have, had I been there, I would have had my little notepad. I would have been taking notes, watching people's reaction, and just picking up on what's going on in the environment to spin that into my stories. And like the bucket list show. Like, who's on your bucket list? Oh, I want to see Joni Mitchell perform because she hasn't performed for 50 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's bucket list. And someone just, they, or when Paul Simon performed, everyone in the audience, everyone at this place was just quiet and listening to him sing Sound of Silence. Like, there was no sounds. They were just listening because that was someone's bucket list. And so that's how I look at things. Like, I come up, like I said, that concept took me 3 years to write. So I came up with the idea at the beginning, and then now you have to really work on the middle, and just like, finally we just figured out the ending and how to end it perfectly. And that was a 3 year process. Like me going back and forth with my agent, and doing this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to add this, and then I'm going to take this out and do this. And I don't really want it to be romance, but I don't want it to be his romance or her romance. It just has to be, like a more of a women's fiction sort of thing. And when we finally got it done, now comes the part of actually what is physically on their bucket list. Like, and it has to be, it can't just be like, oh, I want to go get a massage. Like, it has to be a substantial
something substantial, yeah.
pull for them to do something. So, that's how I just take what's around me and write it down, and then I go back to my notes, be like, oh, I can put this in this story, and put this in this story, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to enter sort of your genre of writing that you brought your own voice to? What was it that drew you to this particular point to say, I'm going to add my voice to this genre because...
So it wasn't anything intentional. It wasn't anything moving or even eloquent as you just put the question.
I tried.
Because my love, my heart was in young adult paranormal. Like, I wrote a murder story that I absolutely adore, and I want to publish it someday, but I want it to be published by a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
And Forever My Girl was straight just happenstance. I saw that photo, told my girlfriend, my friend, what the plot line was going to be, why he left, why he came back. 26 days later, I had a story. That's what happened. I never set out. From when I had initially said I wanted to write a story, I was reading books all the time. I was like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And wrote my story, and I did it. I queried, I did the agent thing, and it just didn't work out. And then Forever My Girl, and once that happened, I was in it. Like, there was no going anywhere else. Like, that's where it is. And so, while I still want to do my young adults, I had young adults, all my concepts are under different. So that it's very clear that, when you read Heidi book, it's under this, and then when you're going to read this book, it's young adult. There's going to be no mixing, no anything like that. So young adult is still my passion, and I still plan to write it.
I know it's my passion too, but I kind of feel like I have to go write other things right now to kind of pay the bills and do that kind of thing. And it's sad because I have so much YA that I want to do. Like, I have a story that's finished that I wrote when I was in ICU, and then I have other ones, and I know that feeling, and I'm like, God damn it, So yeah, I kind of am with you on that. So when you wrote your book, was it like a movie or a jigsaw puzzle that you put together in your head?
No, everything plays out in my head like a movie. It's just how I see storytelling.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just, scene by scene. And all I'm doing is, taking the scene as I see it, putting it on paper and adding all the little fluffy things around it.
to make it a
And,
good book, yeah.
and then we're going on to the next scene. So yeah, everything for me plays out like a movie.
So has there been a character that you would have said stuck with you the longest out of all the books you've written?
That's going to be Liam. Liam Page
Right.
from Fresh Girl. Like, people either love him or they hate him. They either
Yeah.
love him or they do in the movie. I mean, it's a constant, but he's always, in any of the Beaumont books, and there's quite a few of them, he's always
Yeah.
there, always a character. He's always a main character, even when he's the sub character. Like, he's the patriarch that keeps everybody together. He's the wheelhouse. So, and he was my first. He's my first everything, and yeah, so it's definitely him.
Is there a character you wish you could have written more about?
Um, I would normally I would have said yes to this question, and it had been Mason. But being that I just finished his book, or just released his book, then he really did take a lot of that character pressure off that you feel about characters that don't get enough time and they're always like nagging you or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely him, but I'd say there's probably I do have a character named Grady who is definitely waiting for his story, and it's in the synopsis form, just has to go to outlining, and then he can have a story. So he's definitely one, and people are waiting for his story. So
Yeah.
I was working on it, and I am. It's a process. And yeah, so I think Grady right now, of all my characters, his name's Grady Chamberlain, who's in my After All, my Cape Harbor series, After All and Until Then. So it's now his turn to get his due diligence in the story and make amends and seek retribution for the incidents that have happened with him when he is in his life. So he's the winner.
I like that. No, I do. I like that. And since we've talked a lot about techniques, I'm going to skip that question because I think I don't want to overload everyone with techniques. So going into the life portion of the podcast, what is the first thing that you do when you need to just de-stress from editing and writing? What do you do? Where do you go?
I watch Friends.
That is not the answer I was expecting. There is so many people that say these sort of things that catch me off guard, and then I'm like, what? I thought you were going to say I go for a walk on the beach, or I go out in nature, and okay.
So granted, I would love to go out and walk on the beach, and yes, that is probably a thing that will start happening. But I just moved to the beach, so
You're a bit wary, yeah.
I'm not quite there yet. I watch Friends a lot, and I use Friends for background noise because I've seen every episode probably
50 times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And when I leave my house, I turn Friends on for my dogs. Like, we watch. My girls and I we're a Friends family or whatever.
Yeah, I know, I get it. I love that, yeah.
If I'm not in the mood to write, to edit, to do that stuff, if it's a down day or whatever, I'll just lay on the couch and watch Friends because it's so mindless. And I've seen all the episodes. There's nothing I need to retain, right?
Yeah.
But yes, in the future, moving forward, when I need to decompress, it is definitely going to the beach. It's 10 minutes away. So.
What hobbies do you enjoy, and which ones do you wish you could explore more of?
So about 3 years ago, I started my own t-shirt stuff. T-shirt business.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
I honestly just got tired of having one of the t-shirt companies do my stuff and it just being really low quality.
That's why I stopped doing merch myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just started doing my own merch. So, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. So my husband has taken over most of it. And we were running a store until we moved. We did have a store. People come in, they can do their orders and do all that, get all their custom work done.
Yeah.
We make a lot of mugs. We make a lot of stickers and a lot of t-shirts, and then so I have all my own swag that I can physically produce is all done in-house. So all the product is where it needs to be. And I can keep my costs low for my readers. Like, it's just the best thing. If I wasn't writing, I would totally do that full time for all the authors.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would totally agree with that.
Because having someone who isn't a corporation who's doing it helps you keep your costs low.
It does. And I mean, I'm actually looking for someone to do my own, but I've kind of given up hope on it, really, because in Scotland there really isn't anybody. And my merch is for American-based audiences, so then I run into the problem of trying to get it to the States. So I know that feeling, and
we can talk about it, because
we will have to.
Once we are back set up, because we haven't been able to set up yet in our new house, we'll have to move some stuff. We can absolutely run a POD, like, easy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. So, I myself have idiopathic rheumatoid arthritis, which affects my eyes and my body, and it makes me slow down whether I freaking want to or not, and it makes me appreciate the day. What would you say makes you slow down and sort of smell the roses and enjoy your day?
So it's definitely my kids, even though they are older. They're 26 and 20, and like I said earlier, they're in Belize. They're on a sister trip, which is amazing for them.
Yeah.
All they have to do is ask me to do something. Yeah. And if I'm in the middle of something, I'm like, all right, I got 20 minutes, got 30 minutes, or I'll give them a time. Hey, we're going to leave at this time, so you guys be ready to go.
Yep.
I started writing when my youngest was 8.
Yeah.
Being able to, and my oldest was in high school, so being able to just, as soon as I quit my day job, or as soon as it was, I really don't care if you pay me today because I already have some savings in the bank and I'm just going to take the day off, sort of thing. I got to do a lot more field trips. We did more college tours. We did tons of stuff. My youngest, when she was looking at college, she's got really bad knees. She's had 3 knee surgeries. Wanted to go south.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let's go tour some southern schools. Of course, we got down there and she hated it. So.
Of course, that's always the way. Cali might be a good option then.
But my job afforded me that ability to I make my own schedule, more or less, right? So even though, like, everything I work on is outlined, and I use outline as my boss, more or less, this is what you have to do today.
Yep, you do, yep.
I have the flexibility of moving my days around and doing that. So that is very much they say, Mom, we need to go shopping. Mom, can go to the beach. Mom, can do this. Yep. Give me 20 minutes and we'll be ready to go. Like, you go take care of the dogs. You go get the stuff ready. Let me finish my job.
Yeah.
And plus, I can take my computer, or I use an Alpha Smart. I can take that to the beach.
Yeah, of course you can. That's why I can do it in the hospital. So yeah.
I'm going to go swimming. They're just going to go to the beach. Yeah. Around here, you have to have the beach pass. So I have the beach pass on my car or whatever. So, but, like last week, we went to the beach first thing in the morning. I said, well, I'm here till noon. I got to go home and work. But we got home, and my youngest needed to go get a bunch of stuff for her trip. And she's like, can you take me? Because I don't know this area very well. I was like, yeah, I'll take you. So that's what we ended up doing. So that's my definite, as soon as they say, hey, can we do something? I'm like, yep, I just need 20 minutes. Let me finish up what I'm doing, and then we're out of here. We'll go do whatever you want to do. So
I get that, and I love that because I'm about to, we're trying for a baby, and I'm terrified, because I'm like, how the hell am I going to juggle all this? But then I kind of remind myself, well, Priscilla, you've got a computer, the kids can do stuff, you can write, you can balance it, and when it comes to organization skills, that's my area. So where would you say is your favorite place to curl up when you just want to read? Do you go to, during the day, is it like a garden, or do you go to a cafe, the beach, reader's nook? Where's your place to just read?
Lately, my husband and I have been going to the beach after dinner.
Oh,
so
okay.
We take our book. Sometimes he'll go walk the beach, and so we just sit there and we read for a couple hours. We watch the sunset. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And, that's what we've been doing. If I'm home by myself, or we've been in this heat wave, which is hopefully ending today.
We've got it here. We're still kind of going through it, and
Yeah.
it's extreme here.
It's gross.
No
Yeah.
AC, people. Crystal has no AC. Feel sorry for me.
I do. My friend lives in Colchester, England.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad for her. But we live in a condo. We've done a condo thing, so but we have a fenced backyard, and so we have a nice umbrella. So I'll sit out there if it's not too hot or muggy. I'll sit out there and read the book, let the dogs play around, and so forth. But if I'm up and I need to read, or if it's a physical book, I'll just curl up on the couch with a throw blanket because I do have AC, and so it does get a little cold. But we run a lot of the AC to keep the humidity out of there.
Yeah, you have to, because otherwise you get mold and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but, or if I'm listening, if I got to listen to a book, then...
the AC's a bit difficult, yeah.
I'll start vacuuming or cleaning or, folding laundry. Yeah. That I'm doing something active instead of just sitting, which is my preference is to listen, so...
Yeah. So we're on to the word game. All right. And I know you're going to crush this because you're a bit like me, and I know you're quick on your feet. So your first word is parks, because this is like where I would imagine meeting you for the first time by accident in an author ideal world. So your first word was parks.
All right. So when you say parks, I think of picnics.
Cool. I like that. What about beaches?
Beaches was where I wanted to live, and we made the move back in June. So I beach 2 minutes from my house, right outside my door. If you want to go collect shells or rocks, there's some sea glass. It's right there. 10 minutes down the road is the sandy beach, but I live on an island, so it's water on both sides. I love it.
What about ocean?
I live on the ocean.
I imagine being on this sort of in this Cali area where there's a beach next to a park, and we're walking around, and they're having this kind of author day, and I stumble into you. This is how I meet you. Yeah. So
we want that to happen. There's a beautiful state park in Bristol, Rhode Island, on the water. Beautiful bike paths, campgrounds. Like, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous.
I am dying. Like, my dad's supposed to be in New York in next year sometime with the Viking thing, and I'm desperate to go with him. And I'm like, hey, Dad, like, I'm just going to meet all my author friends, and you go to your Viking thing, and I'll just meet my author friends.
Yeah, so...
He's so sold on it, yeah, but...
You can take that. I'm 2 hours on the train from New York, so...
I would definitely take it, like, even though my dad would probably have a heart attack. What about fish?
Fish are friends, not food.
Oh, okay. Woods. What do you think of woods?
You'll never catch me dead in the woods. No joke, I grew up in the Oregon-Washington area. My grandfather lived near the Olympic National Forest. And when I tell you Twilight came out and they talked about werewolves, we grew up believing there were werewolves in that forest because that forest is thick and it's dense and
it's creepy. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yep, you sold me on that one.
Like, nope. So when people tell me that they're going there for vacation, I'm like, it's nice knowing you.
Yep, no, I'm with you. Okay, what about hay, as in horses eat hay?
It's good that horses eat hay because you'll never catch me. Here's another story for you. When I was like, my grandfather had a farm or a ranch, and he raised cows, right? We had to go pick up some hay, and I was being a ding-dong little kid, probably like 8, 9 years old, and I was shuffling my feet on a wooden platform and got a splinter probably 3 to 4 inches long in my toe.
Ouch. Yeah.
So I think of hay.
No, that's a good one. You got tulips and sunshine is your last two.
There's a tulip festival in Washington that I write about in my book, After All. It's amazing, perfect, beautiful, and I cannot wait. I want to go to Amsterdam. I want to be among the tulips. I want to be among the Dutch and have those beautiful tulips all the time.
Well, I can't wait to showcase you here in Scotland. So, girl, you got to get here. I got castles and locks and all sorts up here.
But then the pandemic hit, and so...
Well, you got my info now, so you can actually get the real Scottish tour when you're here.
Sunshine, I need it. I love it. Everyone was complaining about this heat wave, and I get it because people don't have AC, but I have loved every single minute of it. I want the warmth. I want the sun. I burnt my face at the beach the other day because my UV index said it was 1 when it was actually like 9. Not good.
Yeah, no, my phone does that to me frequently. I would love to be in Cali because I need the sun for my health condition.
Yeah.
So that that's the dream, is to one day move there, write there, be a screenwriter there, and just live the life.
San Diego, because let me tell you, I mean, the city of San Diego is big, metropolitan, like probably not where you want to be, but there. And then you take the bridge across the water to Coronado, where all the Navy SEALs are hanging out.
Oh, okay. I see where your mind's going. I was thinking Santa Monica, chilling, but yeah, I could grow that.
Cold. So
is it?
So I lived in San Jose. And went to Los Angeles a lot. Santa Monica does, and they get cold in the wintertime, but not for long. Couple.
I could survive that.
Couple weeks maybe. But if you want all the time sun, like all the time everything, it's San Diego. It's down south.
Yeah, I'm thinking San Diego, kind of Santa Monica because of work, but
yeah. But Santa Monica.
It's been amazing. I have loved this podcast. I have to say, like, there's so many that I do, and I'm just like, so I loved having you on. Next book, when you come to do your next one, please email me so I can have you back, because I love talking to you.
Well, we're going to have another podcast, you and I, because we're going to dominate this Hollywood screen.
We have to. We're going
to do this. We're going to,
I'm away actually to talk to people in Hollywood after this, which is so weird because as I said, I'm doing a mentorship program with Shonaland, and I'm off to talk to them about it, and it's just, it's blowing my mind in a way. So yeah, we have to do more. I reckon do a couple more of these, talking about Hollywood, and maybe setting some people straight about some things too, like as you were saying about contracts and things like that. I think it's really important. So yeah, I could give the writer to be experience, and you can give the experience of actually doing it, and I think that would be awesome.
I think so.
Yeah, viewers, listeners, because you're not viewing this, listeners, check in next week as we've got an even titillating, juice-sensilating episode that you're not going to want to miss.